Hey, number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and as you know, I'm on the Charlie Kirk watch, if you want, if you will. Meaning, whenever people, particularly who have a lot of massive followers, they start speaking about Charlie Kirk, I tune in because I'm curious. What are they saying? Are they being decent or are they being indecent? If it's the latter, I love pointing the finger. Anyways, so we've got Wired. I didn't even see this. This is from a month ago, which makes it even more of a crazy situation because it's, of course, closer to what actually happened. So, as we know, Wired has had some good people and then they've had some awful, awful politically motivated propagandists. And we all know where they lean politically, but maybe they did a good job here. Maybe they did say, hey, we're just discussing the conspiracies apparently, but they are actually going to say still what happened to him was awful. We'll see. Why conspiracy theories took hold when Charlie Kirk died. So this is the only post they made about the death of Charlie Kirk. They're going to do it justice or not? I'm really curious to see what they're going to say. Let's go. I don't believe he's dead? What? Charlie Kirk is still alive?
Assassination of Charlie Kirk. Conspiracy theories about the assassination of Charlie Kirk exploded online in the hours and days after his death. A month later, they still persist. In this video, we'll unpack why they are so potent, uncover what they have in common with past assassination conspiracies, and expose the mechanics of how they go viral. I'm David Gilbert. I write about online extremism and the crisis of truth for Wired.
Oh, so you write about online extremism, I would say. Okay. So obviously he's going to tell us about the extremist, the left-wing extremist who murdered Charlie Kirk. That's what he writes about, am I right? He's 100% going to address that, is he?
Welcome to Disinformation, the Charlie Kirk assassination conspiracies. Today I'm speaking with two experts on the spread of false narratives. Both are authors and researchers. Joan, Nina, thank you for joining us today. To get us started, can I just ask, over the last couple of weeks, what has been the most out there conspiracy that you have seen around the Charlie Kirk assassination?
That the assassin was conservative.
One of the ones that I've seen that I think is kind of interesting and actually coming more from the left is that Charlie Kirk and his family are a psyop, that they aren't actually a real family and that they may be involved with the Freemasons as well.
Yeah, the one that I was really intrigued by had to do with that he wasn't even there. He was being projected as a hologram. And if he had been there, he may have ended up being trapdoored through some kind of underground tunnel.
I was actually at a conspiracy conference in Ireland in real life a couple of weeks ago. They had a tarot reader from Canada there, and she did a tarot reading. And the first question she was asked by someone in the audience from Ireland was Charlie Kirk really dead? And so she went and pulled her cards, and it turns out that he's not dead. And that, in fact, wasn't Charlie Kirk in the university being shot, but someone else.
I think conspiracies are often trying to give a balm to people during confusing events. They're a way for people to make sense of what's going on. And so it makes sense that folks would turn to tarot or turn to elaborate holograms to try to process.
Right, these are obviously the most extreme cases. I mean, these are nut jobs. I think there are also situations, though, where we are using the word conspiracy to engulf even plausible theories that are absolutely legitimate. And maybe they're wrong, but they're not this crazy. And yet everyone who sort of questions anything that is official is immediately going to put together with the likes of this. And that to me is wrong, because sometimes there will be some conspiracies that were real. And then a lot of the times they were false. And then in some cases they were batshit crazy. But let's not put everyone who questions anything. And I'm not one of those. I think that he died. And I think that they caught the assassin. I know in my chat there are people that tell me, no, that's not the real assassin. But I'm not going to tell them crazy, because what the heck do I know? I'm a civilian. So it's not like I can 100% with 1000% certainty tell you, no, I know that's the assassin. What I will say is, if that's the assassin, which is what I currently believe, having given the data I had, then I think it was an act of radical left-wing terrorism. That's what I think. And so, yeah, the people that should be called conspiracy theorists at this point, apart from the nut jobs, are also the ones that say, no, he was a conservative and a MAGA. Yeah, you're out of your mind.
That's what was going on.
Yeah, and I think we've seen this before. Tupac, Biggie, Elvis, Charlie Kirk, this idea that the people haven't really died. You can't believe your eyes in this case, but also that you can't believe government, you can't believe anything that you see or read, which is where you start to see the repetitive types of conspiracy theories come in, not just Freemasons, which is a well-known trope, but also that Israel had something to do with it, or this was a military psyop from inside the government in some way to try to produce a martyr.
And we've literally seen President Trump and other...
He's a martyr, though. Whether or not it was the government who did it, or it was an actual act of extremism that did it, either way, he is a martyr. By definition. Just Google it. If you don't believe it, and you're mad at me saying this, then it's your bias. You've been brainwashed. Google the definition martyr and see if it applies to Charlie Kirk, and you will see it applies perfectly. And the people that say he was not a martyr are just those that are happy that he died.
Others calling Charlie Kirk a martyr.
He's a martyr now for...
Seen President Trump...
Government in some way to try to produce a martyr.
And we've literally seen President Trump and others calling Charlie Kirk a martyr.
He's a martyr now for American freedom.
So are there examples, do you think, from the past where we can see clearly that conspiracies from decades, centuries ago can also be applied to what's happening today?
So famously with the JFK assassination, there was always this claim of a second shooter, or the shot itself was something that never could have been made. And immediately after Kirk's assassination, you saw people sneaking back onto the campus of this university late at night and filming the area and trying to themselves see if they could see if that shot could be made from the top of the building to where Kirk was sitting. And so this notion of the impossible shot or the magic bullet is a tale that we've been through before.
That's an interesting point. And with JFK, there was the controversial theory that a second shot came from the grassy knoll. And similarly, videos now claim that Charlie Kirk would have been shot from a nearby window or balcony.
This would 100% line up with the actual shot from the backside of Charlie,
which is totally improbable. And of course, Tyler Robinson and Lee Harvey Oswald have both been labelled as patsies or scapegoats.
Well, even when we talk about Charlie Kirk's assassination potentially being a hologram, right? That's just a version of a false flag conspiracy theory, which we've seen with many different assassination attempts, from JFK to even the assassination attempt against President Trump during the 2024 election. We had prominent voices on the left suggesting that this might be a false flag to bolster his election chance.
Thank you for bringing that one up. I'm going to give him some credit now. I'm still mildly annoyed that no one even said it's awful what happened to him and his family. I wish they said that, but whatever. They're being analytical. I'm giving them that excuse. Although then again, I don't know, because the other possibility is not that they're being analytical or professional. They're trying not to get into the emotions, but it could also be that if they say that, Wyatt is going to edit it out. Regardless, what she's saying now is that, yes, people, I mean, look, do you remember, guys, what CNN said? So everyone was saying, Trump, assassination. I was live when it happened. Trump, they got Trump, assassination. And they said, no, he slipped on the floor and fell. That's what he did. That's why he hurt his head. That was CNN. Journalism, ladies and gentlemen. Journalism. And yeah, there are absolutely, I still get them in my comments. People telling me, it was Trump put up the shooter to shoot. And I'm like, you do understand that by saying this, that this was something Trump did it so that then he could take the picture doing this with the American flag in the background and then gain whatever support, which he did get, of course. But what I'm saying is, when they say that, it means that either Trump is one of the bravest motherfuckers on the entirety of the planet, who is literally trusting a sniper and keeping him his cool during the entire thing, and then literally he moved like this, otherwise he would have died, or he's a ninja. President Trump is actually secretly Shinobi no Mono, ninja, and he dodged it. It's one of the two.
There's a lot of claims that perhaps the deep state or others within the actual MAGA sphere had used Charlie Kirk as a sacrifice, and that it was to kick off this idea that Antifa and the radical left are the real perpetrators of mass violence.
And the problem with that, though, is that, of course, I don't believe that the assassination was orchestrated by the right wing. I don't believe that. Of course, if you provide evidence, then I'll say, damn traitors. But Antifa is violent. I mean, even if you remove this, then what did they do? They try to bomb ICE facilities. They try to shoot ICE agents and then botched the job, hit a migrant, poor migrants. They got hit as they were in the van and they died because of it. And then they were telling us, oh, he was conservative because he shot the migrants. And it can't be. It's not Antifa. And it's obviously Antifa.
And we've seen similar things like this happen in the past, particularly when Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. There was a lapse of security that allowed that to happen. There was also claims that Booth had actually escaped and that the person that was caught was actually a cadet that looked like Booth, and he was quickly executed.
Right, and one popular conspiracy theory at the time accused elements within Lincoln's own government, specifically the radical Republicans like Edwin Stanton, of somehow aiding Booth to remove a conciliatory Lincoln in order to impose harsher Reconstruction punishments on the South. That to me feels like a 19th century version of a deep state conspiracy.
There's also, of course, conspiracies around the end of the Romanov dynasty in Russia. People still believe today that Princess Anastasia got out somehow, and there have been investigations into different people who claim they're Anastasia and their ears and their DNA on the Freemasons. There's a huge community online that is now claiming that Erica Kirk is secretly a Freemason and she didn't give birth to her children because there have never been any pictures of her pregnant, or she doesn't show her children's faces. Well, as somebody who's received online harassment, I can understand why she doesn't show her children's faces.
What Nina's saying is very true. One actual disinformation story that circulated very quickly after Kirk's murder was that his wife and children were there, and they weren't. So this story...
I actually fell for that one.
Yeah, this story that his daughter was running towards him really tugs on the heartstrings. It's hard to believe someone would make up that kind of detail.
True. That's whoever did that, it's awful. I mean, the situation is already what it is. Don't make up stuff just because you want to get one on the left. Honestly. The radical extremist just shot Charlie Kirk. It's sufficient. If you really want to show the previous picture, the one where Charlie was sitting at his studio and then his daughter ran to hug him, if you really want to show, look, he was a good man. But making up the excuse that the whole thing is nonsense, no, you don't do that. It doesn't matter.
Let's talk about X a little bit, because that's where a lot of these conspiracies begin. I was looking back to September 10th when this happened, and I was trying to find when these conspiracies started. And I found a post, I think less than an hour after Kirk had been officially declared dead, blaming Israel for his death. And it didn't get much engagement. And loads of these posts were posted, but not much engagement. Within hours, though, they began to go viral. Can I ask you, how does something like that go viral? How does it get to the point or break containment from X to the point where the Israeli Prime Minister has to post a video online denying that Israel had anything to do with the shooting? How does that happen?
So in this case, with pushing this conspiracy theory that Israel was involved, you had a specific actor like Candace Owens, who was close to Charlie Kirk. It's someone that is familiar to the Turning Point USA crowd, someone that is quote unquote trusted within those circles. And she really came out in full force to make these associations.
Now she's saying it's France, though, isn't she? No. France is what's trying to take her out. I think she changed that one a few times, hasn't she? You tell me if I'm wrong.
The very day before Charlie Kirk died, he expressed that he thought he was going to be killed.
What she's been able to establish has been very controversial, but at the same time, she's starting to prove it out that there was this fissure with Charlie Kirk and Israeli donors where she had received a text message, and a lot of people denied the existence of these text messages until she published them. She claims to have more. But when you think about the actors behind this, is that you need some kind of protagonist to get the ball rolling. And then it moves from X over to YouTube, where she's primarily doing her nightly show. Then it's over on her Instagram, and then it's back to X, and then people start discussing her content, and then people share her content. And then algorithmically, you start to see it slowly get tied together so that when you look up Charlie Kirk, you end up with what's popular at the time, which is Candace Owens's explanation for who else might have been involved.
They said that there's probably somebody else involved. That sounds about right.
So one of the...
Of course, if she was right, then I would want to know. We would want to know. The only problem is that because of other things she said, I don't know. I personally don't trust them much, but maybe I'm wrong. And I'm always open to be explained to, like, people do come and shame. That doesn't work. If anything, that makes me think I'm in the right. So if you really think, no, you're wrong, she's absolutely, okay, tell me in the comments patiently, with civility.
Things that comes out with these Candace Owens tweets about Charlie Kirk's texts to her is these kind of underlying anti-Semitic tropes that Jewish people run politics, that they have a lot of money. And even Kirk himself says that Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. So she's releasing these things selectively. And I think it's important to note that she is profiting from this. It is driving up ad revenue. And the more salacious stuff that she shares, if she keeps the drip, drip, drip of these text messages going, I mean, frankly, she's profiting from her friend's death.
I'm going to...
Yeah, but this attempt at shaming is kind of weird, because at the end of the day, I know for a fact I have profited from every video that I've made about Charlie Kirk, but I did it because I believed in it. So at the end of the day, that sounds like a little weak of a line of attack. She's a content creator. Anything she talks about will make her a profit. So you can't really hold it against content creators. It is my opinion. Then again,
throw it to some sponsors.
And the platforms are profiting as well.
Right now, you can get 20% off your first order.
One of the things that people jumped on in the wake of his death were these kind of oddities, as people put them. For example, George Zinn, the 71-year-old man who was first arrested because he told people that he was the shooter. It turns out he wasn't. He had nothing to do with it. People have focused on the text messages that were in the affidavit that the police produced that just don't look natural, the text messages between the suspected shooter and his partner. They just don't read as natural. There was a man who looked as if he was giving hand signals, being pretty close to Charlie Kirk. Is that a key component to conspiracy theories generally, that there is a nugget of truth in there, that something did happen that is real, but people just take it in completely the wrong direction?
That's actually not only a nugget of conspiracy theories, that's a nugget of the best and most successful disinformation. It's
right, but if it has happened, we should be able to talk about it, right? If there is a guy doing science and then he gets shot and then the elderly guy screams and uses that to let the shooter run away, this is weird. It's very likely that this was coordinated between several individuals. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's not disinformation. What disinformation would be is to categorically state, this has happened, this is what happened 100%. But the idea of presenting the possibility as you review data like this, is nothing wrong with that. And I think that that's an important line. People have the right to look into this if they're interested. And we are interested. That could have been me. Not that I'm as important as Charlie Kirk, but I am someone who speaks his mind on the internet, and these days people think that speech is violence and therefore a violent, physically violent response is appropriate. This is a very typical and important aspect of violent rhetoric that is being pushed by extreme progressive circles.
Not stuff that's just made up whole cloth. It is things that happen in real life, often fueled by real people's authentic grievances that are then taken out of context, amplified, or weaponized in some way.
One of the things that these conspiracy theories thrive on is this drive to rationalize things that are random. So you show this little clip of someone doing something like this, and you say, oh, this is instantly some kind of signal. And maybe it is. Maybe it's the all clear signal because you are a bodyguard and you're communicating to another bodyguard. I think one of the...
And to remove the maybe, we should investigate that.
The really interesting ones that happened in the 30 seconds after the shot rang out is that someone jumped up and grabbed the camera from behind Kirk and pulled that down. And I think it was obviously to try to stop the live stream and to make sure that if there was, like, God forbid, some kind of coordinated terror attack, you don't want them to be able to be watching what's happening on the ground while maybe they were laying in wait somewhere else on campus to shoot at students or whatnot. So there was this moment where anything anybody was doing was interpreted as somehow trying to collude or hide. But this notion of just asking questions, there's some recent psychology research that it does create a truth bias for people. So if you see the same questions being asked across different platforms and by different people, you start to believe, well, maybe this is true because everybody's asking these questions.
Right, and Joe Rogan in particular is a master of this rhetorical strategy of just asking questions. Here he is on his podcast, which reaches a huge mainstream audience.
You're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking?
And so it's not just a rhetorical strategy to quote unquote just ask questions as part of being an online influencer and to drag the story out, but also it can be a way of slowly persuading people.
Still nothing wrong with asking the questions, totally don't care. I know that this is the part where the freedom of speech.
As to what you want them to conclude.
So because people no longer believe what they are hearing from mainstream media or even from law enforcement at this point, because trust in these institutions has cratered in recent years, that does then
mainstream media, the same mainstream media that complain. Come on, guys.
Leave the way open for other people to take advantage and to post videos showing things that just didn't really happen.
Absolutely. When you raise the specter of just asking questions, was this camera here? Was he wearing a blood pack? Was he wearing a bulletproof vest? You're not only potentially driving clout and driving views on these platforms, but many of these folks are monetizing their videos, right? So if you raise these salacious allegations, you know that it's playing right into the infrastructure of these algorithms, which...
You know that Wired is monetizing this video, right? Because she's starting to piss me off. She started well, but now she's starting to annoy me with this. Then did Wired remove monetization from this video? I don't think so. So people could use this tell you the same thing.
Towards those salacious allegations with more views, more clicks, more engagement, and more ad revenue, frankly.
So there's an MIT study from 2018 that says lies travel further and faster than the truth on Twitter especially. Part of this is because it's so lucrative to have a scoop and to be first. And so we often see Photoshops, very weirdly cropped images. We've seen quite a few different deepfakes of Charlie Kirk's voice, even from beyond the grave.
Right. An AI-generated audio clip of Kirk was played in various services. Such as this one.
Death is not the end. It's a promotion. Don't waste 1 second mourning me.
But going back to what you said, Nina, I've even seen a few altered images that claim that Charlie Kirk was wearing a blood pack, which also seems to have an AI voiceover.
What's protruding out of Charlie's back?
But if you compare this image with a real photo taken by a photographer at the same moment, you can clearly see that this theory is false, but intentionally false.
You see these cheap fakes. People might augment the picture in such a way or stretch a frame so that it looks disproportionate. And knowing that things that are novel and outrageous travel at breakneck speed due in part to the infrastructure of the algorithms rewarding that novelness. It's like we've built an entire algorithmic system on many of these platforms around the idea that whoever has the most bizarre and outrageous information are going to be the ones that are circulated the most.
You know, the most engaging content online is often the most enraging content. So you have people searching for answers, people who are shocked and scared and pissed off. And that is just the perfect fuel for conspiracy theories.
When I saw the video, it was horrific and it really upset me. But there were dozens, hundreds, thousands of posts showing the video. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions probably viewed it. In fact, by the time Kirk was pronounced dead 2 hours later, the videos posted by people at the rally had more than 11 million views.
Look, I appreciate that he said that, because that was very brave to say on Wired. With that being said, he's complaining about the people who reposted the assassination proper because they got the views. And now you gotta complain about the people that celebrated it, right? Because those are 10 times worse.
My colleague at Wired, Lauren Good, pointed out that we are pretty much living in a post-content moderation world. Nina, Thoughts?
Certainly with the advent of the paid-for blue check on X, where your content can be surfaced to more people and you can gain virality, gain amplification, gain credibility by posting the more inflammatory content that does well on X, I think Musk has opened up a new industry for...
Okay, this is insane. You can't complain about Musk giving the blue check and turning it into an opportunity to make money, which is totally fine. Because it's basically doing the same thing that every other platform is doing, allowing people to monetize their content. Everybody does that. Every platform does that. You should complain about the people who celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk and pushed for more violence towards his family and children. If you don't say that, I'm sorry. At this point, you're a coward if you don't do that. Or you agree with it. It's one of the two. Maybe you disagree with it. You're like, no, it's awful what happened to him, but I'm too scared because the left is going to eat me alive. Or you secretly are like, yeah, good, one less bigot. And I don't respect either.
Folks to engage in harmful and violent rhetoric and in some cases even traffic in violent videos, right?
What's more harmful and violent than to ask for his bigoted children to be taken out next while they sing "We Got Charlie" in their neck? Are you serious?
That's the moment that we're in.
I think a really important point from the point of view of the shooter is that they waited till the live stream was on, right? And this is a really important and salient point, which is that they wanted to spread the trauma. It wasn't necessarily about just killing Kirk.
Exactly. It's an act of terrorism. Thank you. See, this lady's better. Thank you. It was an act of domestic terrorism. That's what terrorism is. Using violence to scare and manipulate people for political reasons inside a country. That's exactly what it is. Terrorism.
It was about doing it in front of an audience. It was about doing it in a way that would be mediated and distributed.
One thing that I think is important to dig deeper on is the way that these violent videos are often remixed, or even people attempt to evade content moderation by flipping, inverting kind of the image, changing a filter on it. All of that generates what's called a different hash. So it makes it more difficult for the platforms to identify and remove these videos. And let's be clear, posting a video of a murder is not speech, right? This goes against most of the platforms' terms of service.
I wonder if she thinks it's free speech to push for the murder of other conservative speakers. I wonder that, because when you speak about this, it's insane. While complaining about violent rhetoric and speech, but you don't even mention that?
Interesting point. The platforms have stepped back in recent years. For example, TikTok recently announced it will lay off hundreds of human content moderators in favor of increased AI-enabled content moderation. Does that play an important role in the fact that there is now zero friction effectively for anyone who wants to spread not only those horrible videos that you reference, Ina, but also any sort of disinformation that they may choose to post online?
Yeah, and I think it's important to put out there that the same people whose job it would be to regulate these companies in this industry are the ones who are also benefiting from the spread of this disinformation.
Musk and the platform executives know this is how their platforms work, right? And with Elon Musk in particular, you have something really peculiar going on where not only is this guy profiting from disinformation and from conspiracy theories, he himself is adding fuel to the fire. And I think that's totally intentional. We know that Elon wants...
You know what was totally intentional? The assassination of a conservative speaker who was all about discourse and dialogue with the other side. That was intentional.
X to be the place where news happens and news breaks. So
look, all he wanted was reasonable debate, but still the radical left celebrated it. He's right! What are you on about, you absolute hypocrite liar? He's right! The one before I can see, because you could say, but not everyone in the left. I can get this one. I can be with you. I can be honest with you. But you put this on screen while you tell me that he's pushing misinformation? You absolute liar. Despicable liar, coward.
So if in the moments after the shooting, he's able to say, well, it was them, the left did it, the violent left, that...
It was the violent left.
really adds to people flocking to his platform, using it, commenting there, and it adds to the usage metrics for them, which I think all of these platform executives have in mind, but for Musk, it's particularly insidious given his own usage of his platform and his recognition of how it works.
So he was wrong when he said that there were hundreds of thousands of people celebrating the death. Did we dream that? Man, this is like the most un-American thing I've ever seen. Someone dies regardless of freedom of speech. That was the death of freedom of speech. Clown.
So on that point, we saw a lot of people questioning why the video of his actual death was posted online so much. What's the driving force? You mentioned money. Is there other forces there that make people want to post about this so much that their first instinct is, I need to go on TikTok or I need to go on Instagram or X?
Yeah, that's me. My first instinct was, that could have been me. I feel for him. I feel for his family. I feel for his children. And it was a monstrous injustice. Let's see if they're going to say that, or if they're going to say it's the far right pushing political manipulation.
And give my opinion to the world.
Come on.
Well, even the nation's top law enforcement official felt the need to post through it with Kash Patel. A lot of the commentary in the days after the assassination, when they still hadn't found the shooter, was perhaps we shouldn't have online influencers leading law enforcement. But I really do think it's important to note what a cash cow this is for so many conspiracy theorists online. The idea—
Cash cow. You absolute moron. And you say nothing about the people that said to take out his children because they were bigots?
That Charlie Kirk is a psyop. I found that through the Substack algorithm. That was fed to me by somebody who claims that they're just doing research. This person has over 78,000 subscribers on Substack, and that's all monetized. And the more that they push this information out, the more that they're driving subscriptions, the more that they can continue to...
You know why someone like her would never believe that someone like me would do this, whether I could make money or not off of it, which is the truth? It's because she doesn't understand that. It's either money or to own the chuds, or she wouldn't do it. I would. I absolutely would. I will never stop speaking about Charlie Kirk because it was an awful injustice, and it was wrong to see how people reacted to it. Money or no?
Cash in on these horrible events.
I think also, you know, when we get down to it, images like this, which are something that gets massively distributed, you get called in as a user and as a witness into action. You are now part of the manhunt. This is what made QAnon so powerful. Every day you could be part of the analysis, and you could be making videos like this and like circling this little wisp of whatever is going by here. But what's important here is that you become a detective. I think one of the things that we really misunderstand about the media ecosystem, especially around the right, is that if you are a right winger, one of the most important things you can do as a political participant in the world is share right-wing media content.
That is this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So, and if you are a left-wing person involved in political space, one of the most important you can do is share left-wing media content. What? And you need an expert to say that?
You are not the audience, you are the distribution system.
On the right.
Media share each other's information and articles. You would just never see the New York Times sharing the Washington Post. So mainstream media has a different business.
Man, the New York Times, they push so much propaganda and it's so obvious. And you check the exact same words used on the other the clowns
model than right-wing media, where these kind of narratives tend to thrive.
Is there
so right-wing media are awful because they spoke about the death of one of us, but left-wing media is good, although they were the ones celebrating. Not everyone, again, but they didn't say a word about that in the entire episode, and I'm watching the whole thing until the end, by the way.
Specific phrases or red flags that people should be wary of and not look at that stuff and look maybe at more fact-checked stuff. For me, when I hear words like 100% incontrovertible proof, that's an immediate red flag.
One of the things that I think is important to recognize is that all of us are human. All of us make mistakes. So anybody who is claiming definitive knowledge in a breaking news situation is probably full of shit. Until you see something corroborated on multiple sources from multiple people of different backgrounds and political viewpoints, I wouldn't trust it.
We have to be much more astute news consumers. I also am in favor of what I call everyone is a journal-ish. So I think that most people that use social media these days, they have to think, how do I know if this is true? And what are the stakes if I'm wrong?
Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today.
Yeah, you didn't have time to condemn the people that laughed at Charlie Kirk's death. Shame on you, all three of you. Don't even care at this point. I have zero tolerance, guys. And if you are decent, neither should you. Anyways, thank you for watching.